Wouldn't have all this oil, you know that, right? So there was a reason for that. We're live. Okay, here we are. Thursday morning, sunny and bright. Temperature's going up. So we're going to start off. Although our temperature when we took it was normal. Not that temperature. All right, ready? 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, and stop. To the side. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, and stop. Hands up. Reach down. 1, 2, 3 to your right. 2, 3 to your left. 2, 3. Center. Inhale. Exhale. Hands up. Reach down. 1, 2, 3. To your right. 2, 3. To your left. 2, 3. Center. Inhale. Exhale. Hands up. Reach down. 1, 2, 3. To your right. 2, 3. To your left. 2, 3. Center. Inhale. Exhale. Hands on your waist. Circular movements. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 1, 2. Reverse. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 1, 2. Center cross. Knees. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 1, 2. Reverse. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 1, 2. Center. Hands on your waist. Neck turning. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 1, 2. Back and forth. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 1, 2. Center. Tilt to the side. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 1, 2. Center. Rotating. 1, 2, 3. Reverse. 1, 2, and 3. Center, hands up. Pull in, inhale, exhale, inhale, exhale, inhale, exhale. Okay, spread your feet, turn your shoulders. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 1, 2, 3, and stop. Okay, stretch it out. Switch. 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 Straighten the front knee. Switch. 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 Center. Okay, shake it out. Okay, hands up. Inhale. Exhale. Inhale. Exhale. Inhale. Exhale. Okay, hands your waist. Shoulder roll. Ready? 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 1. Reverse. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 1, 2. Okay, press, release, exhale, inhale. And stop. Hands up. Inhale. Exhale. Okay, wrists. Reverse. And Sana. Okay, palms down. Bigger circle. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, and stop. Okay, shake it out. Okay, balancing. Let's shift the weight side to side. So even though we're just shifting, we're still actually building some flexibility in the hips. So let you sort of free up the joint. Okay, we'll shift over and lift. Lift up, straighten the knee on the way up. So you should be fully stacked and extending up, lifting as much as you can, and lift your spine. Okay, shake it out. Let's get this upper body swing, and then we're going to kick in with the right leg. And sana. Switch. Okay, sana. Side to side. And sana. Go to the other side. Ready? Swing. And sana. Okay, shake it out. Pull in, inhale. Exhale. Inhale. Exhale. Inhale. Exhale. Okay, silk rilling. Switch. Okay, Sana, cross, open and close. Switch. Okay, Sana. Circular movements. Okay, lower hoop. Fold the elbows. Sink the knees. Shoulder height. Elbows down. palms down, straighten up. Extend. Okay. Inhale. Exhale. Inhale. Exhale. Inhale. Exhale. Okay. Diagonal flying. Switch. Okay, center. Cloud hands. Okay. Lift up. Okay, infinity sign. Okay, form the fist. Okay, palms together. Strum the lute, triangle position, elbows down. Thumbs up. And switch. And center. Draw the bow. Okay. Widen the stance. Fan through the back. Okay, raise the hand. And palms down. Okay, shake it out. Deep breathing. Inhale. Exhale. Inhale. Exhale. Inhale. Exhale. Okay, so today, because this is a live stream class to an audience that's viewing, online, one of the concerns have been that, when they typically watch a class, that we just go through the form. So it's very hard to learn when we just go through the form. Typically in a live class, we end up sort of breaking up the class, and then the individuals learn up to where they know, and then you build off of that, and you learn the next section, and you remember that. But it's very hard to do that when you're doing, a live video. So the only way to work it is to kind of identify the postures. So the linear form that we've been working on over the past few months is really to identify the postures. So in the Tai Chi Paradigm form, we have these postures that are really small bits of the form. They're really mini sequences, such as when we open the form, where preparation, which is this movement. Then we have the two vertical elbow positions that end up as beginning style. So what we're going to do today is kind of identify the postures as units, both in the Tai Chi Paradigm form and the long form, so that we sort of get familiar with the different little pieces before actually stringing it together, and then identify some of the differences between the long form, the pieces that are not there in the Tai Chi Paradigm, and so forth. But bear in mind that when you do the Tai Chi Paradigm form, you're really training both sides. You have the left side and the right side movements. But in the long form, it's really right side dominant in many of the movements. So the movements that have dual positions, like brush knee has right and left, Jade Lady Work Shuttle has right and left, Pot the horse's mane has right and left. So those movements really, we can work those as drills, and we've done that in the last few sessions, showing you how to turn 180 degrees. So the warm-ups and the fundamentals teach you some of the transitions, and it also teaches the patterns, geometry of position, and we work those separately. Hand movements, standing in the shoulder width stance to identify it, and then we start to move into posturing, which is taking the hands and legs and combining those into different combinations. So what's essential is your lower hoop, your middle hoop, and your upper hoop. Okay, so those three positions will show up at some point in the form. So these could be palm down, and these could be palm up or out. And this could be like this. Now when we pull the palms together, we have the triangle. And this triangular position really is in this space from the navel to about shoulder. So when we pull the palms together, we can spread it out like this to create the corner positions. That's the geometry of position. And we can bring it back like this. Then we can turn our palms like we're opening a book, and it's kind of pointing toward the front with the palms. So that's the movements that actually go in this oblique line. Okay. Now we can also open the hands like this, and they're parallel and square. Now in some cases we always look for that center line. So in closing the door, we would have that center line. All right. And if we take one hand away and do this, so we have an upper hoop and this, and we have one on each side. That's your Jade Lady Work Shuttle positions. So that doesn't happen till we start to do the cross step and so forth. And then we have the lower palm position like this, which is part of the square, and it's part of preparation or the opening movement, and we push out like this. So we have this down position and this out position, this down position, this out position. All right. So those are actually a couple of the ideas of how we have combinations of movements. Those are final positions. Final positions are the positions that really the posture is named after. So Jade Lady Work Shuttle is this, and it's that. But there's some transitions and some footwork that's built into that. So that's some hand work. And then we're going to stand like this. Footwork, right? So we open the stance, whether we go this way or this way, is just going into the shoulder width stance. Okay, pivoting. If we pivot on the ball of the foot, it'll take us 90 degrees. If we pivot, kicking the heel out and turn, we have 90 degrees. So where does that show up? I'm going to show you two versions of where that would show up. When we open the form and we step up to the empty stance and we go forward and back, this is where we kick out the foot and then we shift the weight and we step up. That's how we turn that corner to get to the first grasp the sparrow's tail. Where we're in the position where we're in stalk flaps wings and we turn to the left, that's where that shows up. Okay, so that gives you two samples of why you would toe out or pivot on the ball of the foot and then pivot on the heel. So you have one of each. Okay, in this case, when we're here and we sit, go forward and back, the toe stays down, you kick out, and then we shift. This one becomes a transition in the hip and a step to the side, right? So that gives you an idea what the feet have to do. Now, when we're in this position, this is a heel pivot, right? And a toe pivot. Now, if I reverse the movement and I go only 45 degrees, then that takes me to a position where I can find the corner. When I slide this foot behind me directly parallel to the window or the mirror, I open my foot, now I have 245 degree. That's how we get into a single whip. Okay, so this is footwork. If I'm here and I'm in a single whip, I could step out like this and open to here. If I start to wave my hands like this to do a cloud hands, there's my pivot to take my foot into that corner. And then I tee out like this and toe pivot here, and I use the same footwork to bring me across. So without focusing on the hands, we're focusing on the feet. So there are toe, heel, 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 toe, toe, heel, heel, toe, toe, heel, 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 toe. So anytime we're in a position like this and we transition and we go to a position like this, like diagonal fly, we have to get our weight over here, so we go to the ball of the foot because we're pushing off the ball of the foot to get the weight here. And then we have to touch down. If we just plant it, it becomes too solid. So we want to gradually touch down. Now once the heel touches, we pivot on the heel. We really can't pivot on the toe because it can't go anywhere from there. So we have to pivot to open back in that corner. So if you follow the concept that I mentioned earlier in other videos, that your feet steer you in a direction. So if your goal is to go into the two corners, you would steer yourself into that corner, and then we open. Now we're still looking over there, but we have to get back through center. So the first phase is to turn to here. The second phase to get to the other corner is turn to here. And then you pivot again. Now if you follow those guidelines and you know you're going into the corners, then it's not so much trying to remember it's a toe, heel, heel, toe type of thing, because it becomes pretty logical that that's what's going to happen. So we're in this direction. I could pivot on the ball of the foot, but then that really doesn't really take me into the direction. When I turn like this, it takes me into that direction. When I push off this or roll into the ball of the foot, that relationship takes me forward. And then it allows me to stabilize my body position here. So this becomes the light foot, and you pivot the light foot. Because if I put weight on there, I can no longer switch, right? I can't pivot. So now I tee out, because if you tee out into the corner, that's going to take you there. So now the logical thing is to spin your hips and go on the ball of your foot. Because if you went on the heel of the foot, you would really be cramping jamming yourself up in this position. So you're here, we touch here, pivot. Now we have to open it up a little. You see that? By pivoting on the ball of your foot opens. But isn't this the same position as this position? Because when we're here and we shift, we set up that. Then we pivot and then we turn, we have that. And then this. So this position is like an interim position to go forward. And if you go a little wider, it gives you the wider stance. And then pivot here. And then we shift. And then we touch down. So that has to be practiced because why? Because when you push off this back foot, your ankle has to relax so that your shin bone actually transitions forward over the toe, and then you're over here. That gives you stability. So transitioning, every time I say shift, when we're going through the form, it's really that mechanism. To shift means to get your weight over that foot. So when we're here, for instance, if we're in a empty stance like this, and I go forward and back, and I toe out, now our feet are flared out. I'm pretty stable either way. And then I shift my weight like this. And then I pivot to here. And then I touch down to here if I was to step up. Or I shift and I check my weight and then I go to here. So this is what happens is when I toe out, I have to shift and then I go to this position and then pass through. Now you can pass through if you're turning a lot, or you can shift forward and just step directly forward. Now we also have it in the single whip when we shift like this. So shifting typically is moving your weight across and then shift again. So there's really two methods of shifting, right? You're here and I shift like this as swaying the hip. So we're doing that. If we're like this and the knees are bent, that's shifting. So when the knees are straight and you go like this, your body goes over. When the knees are bent and you go over, then your knee is actually what's lining up with your foot. So in order for you to get your legs over your feet, you have to create that little shift. So the ankle is actually what is involved there. When we're standing like this and we bend the knees, that's a shift. So from the side view, you can see that the knees actually go forward. So that's something that people don't pay attention to. Because why? Because the ankles are so tight. You know, if you're doing a lot of running and jogging and, you know, bouncing around on your toes, your calves are very, you know, contracted. They're solid. They want to be in this tension mode, sort of. So if you're in a tension mode and you bend your ankles, the calves actually don't release. Now, if the calf doesn't release, the front muscle here doesn't release either. That actually tightens. So it becomes like a rigid forearm or a stiff elbow. So the joints in the lower body really, they're not so forgiving. You have to kind of work at it. So you have to teach your lower body how to create those positions, right? So that's some basic footwork that you can review on the videos just to get the idea. Shifting, pivoting, turning, and then stepping forward when we're in this position and we square the feet and we bring this foot in. Here's the empty stance. Now when you bend, you lower the foot and you shift forward. So this is stepping forward. We shift, right? And we step. So when you shift, it goes forward, and then when you go to the ball of the foot, that's the interim position to take you through to the next. Now, your option is to toe out first and then come through the center. All right. So some forms we can turn a full 45 degrees, depending on how wide the stance is going, or it can be slightly smaller than 45. Depends on your comfort level, and then when you step through, you're in the next stance. Okay. Now when we step like this and we shift forward and come into a total shoulder width stance, you have to actually pass through center to find that position. So that position is established here. All right. So where's the step up position? Closing the door. And raise the hand. Those are two step-up positions. One's on the right, one's on the left. So those transitions happen throughout the form. So if you learn it at one place in the form, you'll have at least one side, then you have to do on the other side. And then wherever that happens, you just use that same procedure. Now, strum the lute we have is this. We know that. That's called strum the lute. Horizontal elbow and presses that. So those are two basic fundamentals, vertical and horizontal. So that defines that posture, right? Grasp the sparrow's tail is this. So we know these from the sequences, but we have to make sure we know that that's the final position there. When we're in the single whip position, you have this configuration. Okay, when the hand goes in and lowers and this goes across, hold the ball. Hold the ball. That's a transitional position that takes you into diagonal flying. Okay, depending on which hand is down, that goes up, this one goes across. Okay, step up and raise the hand after you do the diagonal flying. So this is diagonal. We do this as one of the drills. This is a pass-through to raise the hand. So raise the hand is this. Bend from the waist. Stalk flap swings is that. Okay? Once we finish that, we have brush knee, which is really a transition that takes us to here. So we have one on this side, and we have one on this side. So the transitions we've gone through in different videos, but you have to look for this position. This is by the thigh, that you're brushing the knee hand. This is the push. All right, and it's usually off your back leg. And then we can go on to strum the lute. So this is neutral. We have the hand that goes across like this as a transition, and then close the door is this. Okay, then we go back to neutral. And then this is a step up, just like in the beginning of the form. Left side forward. Now forming the fists, divert and block. Those are a couple of drills that we do. That series is punch, pull back, divert, block, and punch. Right? So you have the punch, it looks like this. You have the block that looks like that. And you have the punch again, and it ends up like this. So that's your position. Now when we cross, there's a cross hand. There's a vertical elbow. That's a transition, but your final position, leopard and tiger, springs to mountain is that. Okay. So these are your target positions. Fist under elbow is this. The transition is this. So we're not working the transition. We're just finding those positions to identify what that looks like. Okay. Now, repulse the monkey actually is just like brush knee. It's always off the back leg when you push, so you have to reverse the stance. So that's the reason why we step back. It's called retreat and repulse the monkey. So the final position looks just like brush knee. But the step backwards, which is another footwork, is stepping through your center, planting your foot, and then you end up in this position. If we sit back and go forward and then turn, and the turn is turning your body, then you end up here and you start to go backwards. Now where you put your foot down, so this is what you to avoid. When you shift and turn, avoid stepping like this. See how it's tilted? When you straighten, you have to go through center and then veer off a little bit to the side, because you still want to end up with the toe here, right? And here. So where you plant your toe determines where your heel's going to be. So this should be at the shoulder width. So there should be shoulder width, right? The toe and the heel. See the toe, if I draw this straight back to here and I straighten out the foot, I should be in a shoulder width stance. So what the mistake a lot of people make when they step back is to go through center and then not know where this foot goes, and you end up kind of doing this, and then you're actually over there. Then when you step back and you straighten your foot, then you start to, you lost your center. So you have to track this invisible line that it goes like this, and then when you plant your foot down, it's going to be about that shoulder width position. Now we're shoulder width, and we go back again, and then when the heel goes down, you're about shoulder width, and if you go through again, you just kind of pass through and then get used to finding that position. So proprioception, this is now you're going backwards, and you have to feel the relationship with the direction you're headed in. So that's repulse the monkey footwork. Okay, now after repulse the monkey, we have diagonal flying, which we know already. We have the insert needle position. So where insert needle is this. There's your final position. So it looks like this. It's the opposite hand pointing down. When you go forward and adjust your feet, so you notice the feet pivot on the heel, pivot on the heel. That's just your 45-degree stance, and fan through the back is this. Okay, there's your final position. In front of the forehead, out to the side. Now if I turn, my hands are like this because I sustained the position. Now I stroke down. This is parry and punch. Here's your back fist. Now, keeping the vertical spine, when you sit back, what has to happen? Your ankle has to release. So you stay as vertical as you can without tilting. And then you turn back to center and you go forward. Okay, stepping up and forming the fist is the next movement. We already know that. So carry tiger to the mountain. We know this is carry tiger to the mountain. But transitionally, we have to go from this corner to here. So the first part of carry tiger to the mountain is this. The second part of carry tiger to the mountain is this. The third part of carry tiger to the mountain is here, but that's in the drill. So this position was really here. So there's really the third position, the second position, and then the cross hand is the third position. Then you raise the hand. Then we bend from the waist. So this is just the opposite movement. So the rest of it is really repeated. Grassless spiral stay on the left side, which is this. Then we have part the horse's mane, which is similar to diagonal fall. So part the horse's mane is this. Part the horse's mane is this. Okay, and we mentioned earlier, Jade Lady Work Shadow is this. Jade Lady Work Shadow is this. And you look in the mirror, there's your target position. You're in a leaning or forward position stance, and you're here. So we didn't go through that specific footwork, but that's just identifying the leg position and the hand position. And then we end up in single whip, which is a repeat. And then the cloud hand movements with the footwork that we did earlier. So there essentially is all the pieces to the form until we get to closing. And we get to closing, we have this pivot, right? And a step back, and then pivot, pass through center, step out to the side, and we pivot on the heel, and we bring the weight back into that foot. So that's a closing movement, same closing that we have in both forms. Doesn't matter. Okay, so that's essentially the postures. So, following the sequence, it's already been recorded probably 1,000 times when you watch the video. So the sequence is there to follow, but identify the postures, and you have a better time. Because when you're trying to follow and you're looking, you're trying to figure out what's going to happen, you can actually work on one of those final positions just to identify it, and then we'll build the transitions, which we've done in some of the videos. Now when we get to the 108 movement form, the same thing happens. So what's in the 108 movement form that doesn't appear in the Tai Chi Paradigm are the obliques. So obliques are really corner movements. So one of the things that happens is that we end up going to carry tiger to the mountain early in the form, and we end up in this front corner. So traditionally or transitionally, we go to the front and cross the hands. And then we turn to this corner and do one brush knee. So there's brush knee that we just went over. And then we have a 180-degree turn, which is this, to the opposite rear corner. And you do the left side brush knee. And then we do one right side grasp the sparrow's tail. And then we turn the front foot 45 degrees. Hook your wrist and bring the other foot next to it. Find a slanting 45 degree using the same procedure we use to get into a single whip stance, and we're in the corner. And then we don't actually hold the ball, sorry, we're here. And then the next footwork is this. And if you can't get all the way around, you'd have to drag this foot. And then we're in a position to do fist under elbow. Okay. So that series that we just went through is called the obliques. That shows up in the form. That's more footwork more than anything, because we already know brush knee right side, we know brush knee left side, we know cross hands, we know carry tiger to the mountain, and we know grasp the sparrow's tail. So nothing is new in there as far as postures. It's just how do we move our feet to get us into that corner there. So when we start off from, where are we? Oh, from left and right. The first thing is to go to this corner. So we go down, and then we carry it to this corner, and then we cross the hands with a right hand on the outside now. In the Tai Chi Paradigm, we have the left hand because we go to the left side. But here we stay on the right, and we go. Now we've just turned the shoulders and then sit back on that leg, go into the empty stance, and you begin the setup for brush knee and push. So when you're doing setups for brush knee, think of this. Stork flap swings, neutral position, set up your right. Cross hand position, turn to the corner, set up your right. Right? Heel kick position, set up your right. Same setup. So we know that there'll eventually be a consistency in that setup because you already know. So a setup is preparing the hands. But, a lot of times once you know the form, your setup's going to be a lot more intricate or maybe a little bit more combined. So when we're in a cross hand position, we're just going to turn and that automatically happens, right? So you can see that when we're in a cross hand position, if we turn the waist, the hands will know to do that. All right. So, many times we go into this brush knee setup position. That becomes part of your turning of the body, because now when I turn, it's a matter of doing that. When you learn it, it's a matter of doing that. So that becomes, a basic way of setting it up, but it's not linked and it's not fluid and it's not connected. So connecting the movement from one position to the next becomes a fluidity that becomes somewhat of a blending of positions that will happen spontaneously practically. So that's really what happens. You evolve based on this idea of knowing it, or knowing. So a lot of times say, knowing is not knowing. So we really, really have to go through a transformation of how our movements become seamless and fluid. So it's really something that's part of a skill level, but it's also part of, sort of, in say learning to write. You do block letters, then you kind of smooth it out a little, then you learn how to script, and then ultimately it's somewhat of a calligraphy. But that's, stages of writing. So writing, we're really just kind of drawing and writing in space. That's all we're doing, right? When we move our hands like this, that's an S. We make a C, a circle, a D, a figure eight. What are we doing? A question mark. That's all we're doing, is creating figures in space, and you define those. And because we know what they look like, a I, a T, we know what these look like, a V, right? That's a U-turn, but U-turn. Okay, yeah. Extension? So, yeah. So the question is, how far should you extend your push in the brush knee technique? Or, in fact, any push, how far should you push? So that was a question actually last Saturday in class 2. So we have to look at a push as being the idea of using your palm. So a push is a palm type movement, and it's really has a functionality to it. When you push into something, you move it. You push a door, you push it to open it. And that's the term push. If there's a button and it says push to stop, you push it and it stops. So that's functional. It's tangible. You know how much to go, because if you push to a certain point, you did the task. It stops because you went from on to off, or you push the door, you push enough till it opens. But when you push a door, you really have to move your feet, because you can't get through the door until you continually push. So in brush knee and push, or even grassless power, your push really is generated by the transition in the legs. So if the movement is generated by the legs and directed with your torso and your hand, then the effort doesn't really have to be so much in the arm, simply because you're not really pushing a door, you're not really hitting a button. It's a virtual motion. So how far do you have to extend really has to do with where the body settles and finishes a position like this without locking the elbow, has enough expression in the movement to feel like it's going forward, and then it finalizes by seating the wrists. So the elbow actually doesn't lock out. The shoulders don't lock out. But it should be extended enough so you get a full expression of the push, because in the final position it does have a range of motion without locking, but the range is from this point to this point as a transition in the leg. Now as you progress, and this is for people that actually have learned the form and starting to integrate the body, while your body is in a position and you turn, you're really loading up your waist and your torso, and your leg is wound up, and when you start to turn and it starts to extend, your body actually created this. That movement is sort of the tangent of a circle. You know what a tangent of a circle is? When a circle is round, it has sides on it. So a tangent of the circle would be coming off that circle like this. But you don't see it like this because the circle is through here and you're turning. So you create the rotation of the torso, the rotation of the hip, the extension of the leg, and your lower extremities is actually generating the force. So one of the questions on Saturday was, I feel like I'm going on the ball of my foot. So going on the ball of your foot is this, right? So in some styles they actually do that, but they don't actually do it like this. They do it like this. So what we should be doing, if you're finishing the posture, should be pushing off like this and then pushing into the heel of the back foot to create the structural integrity of that leg. So that's a little more difficult to do because your calf actually has to relax. And going back to the tight calves, it doesn't really allow you to do that because it gets tight and it wants to kind of bind you from moving forward. So that's what learning to relax is, learning to let go. You know, one of the classes I talked about is letting go of tension. Relaxing is letting go of the tension in your body. Tension in the body is the tension in the joints. Because you could have tension in the middle of the muscle belly, but not necessarily, and you can relax that, but not letting go of the joint. See what I mean? So it's really body control. And body control is something that you build over time. So what's the value of body control is that you become a coordinated being with, intelligence to movement. Whereas if you don't learn to move, you really just move. So that's really random. It's kind of just sort of the copy mode that your brain can actually do. So the idea of monkey see, monkey do, or you go to the zoo and you see you do this and the monkey will do this, that's a mirroring. And because the humans have the same capacity, we just kind of copy what we see and we really don't know what we're doing. So, but when you're doing something like Tai Chi, your whole goal is to understand what you're doing. So you can't blindly go through it, because if you blindly go through it, you end up not really understanding what your end goal is. So your end goal is to integrate the body, create good circulation, build control of your appendages, your torso, build center of mass, control of direction. So what are the directional things in Tai Chi is forward, backward, right, left, and center. The center is the central equilibrium, the balance point in your center of mass. So here it's very easy to find. This is more difficult to find. This is more difficult to find because when you get into those positions for the first time, you're not really relaxed. Another position that's very challenging for new people is this, or this, because the thigh, even though it's bent, and you say, how much strength are you using to support your weight? You don't really know. If I said, enough just to balance, then you would have to work on that. So when you hold the position over time, what ends up happening? Your brain will start to delete the excessive, the erroneous tension in the body. So standing like this, it gets rid of excessiveness. In the arms, in the torso, in the legs, and it allows you to relax and settle into your position. So settling gives you this concept of balance and rooting. Rooting is to be attached and firm in the ground, but at the same time, because we're learning to shift the weight, we become agile on our feet. So why Tai Chi is so beneficial to people that are aging or starting to lose their balance or have trouble walking and so forth is this concept. It takes time to develop that. That's why most people won't spend time doing it unless they have some kind of a format or at least a way of practicing it. So, you could go to the gym, work out, lift all day long, go on a treadmill, run for cardio type things, but doesn't really improve stability and balance because you're moving through too quickly. Your body's proprioceptive system doesn't dial into what's actually happening to maintain balance and stability and control, because that becomes a sensory issue. You have to be able to be sensitive to your positions, and what's that sensory system working for? What is it working for? Sensitivity, feeling. You feel balance. When you say you feel balance or you feel not balanced, what is it? It's because something's not right. Tension. Upper body rigidity, right? So, this type of thing, when you go up and you do this, it's actually, it's a normal thing. Why is it doing that? It's doing that because it's responding to trying to keep you on that one leg. But then if you're solidifying that, not getting stiff, but actually getting everything to work in the correct direction, then everything's going to work properly, and then you're going to be much more organized in a sense. Your body becomes sequentially astute. It knows what to do. So the sequential events that causes them, because what? There's a psychological thing, because we're trying so hard that it doesn't work. So actually, when you try too hard, like when you try to swing, you overcompensate because you overthink. So once you go through a certain amount of training, you don't want to overthink it. In fact, just get the concept and let the body do the rest. And then go back to it. The time you have to think is when you understand it. When you understand it, then your thinking becomes a principle, a concept. Meanwhile, you're just kind of taking a concept and trying to reverse engineer it. It's a lot harder to do. So I think it's about time, right, Lucienne? Oh, so we didn't really get to do the form, but I think, I didn't even get through many of the postures actually. So, if we got a couple of minutes, then after the first set of cloud hands, which is really in the long form, the first section, that's a huge section. That's why it takes a bit of time to learn. So after the first set of cloud hands, we have the kicks. So when we go from here to here, here's your first position, your second position. All right. So that's really, we know reverse the ball is this, and the fingertips are like that, right? Reversing the ball is also like this, with the fingertips going forward. You see? So when we reverse the ball, it looks a little different, but we reconfigure to this. So we still have this. We can also reverse the ball like this, where you turn like this. Or you can turn like this on the oblique. So that's reversing. Reversing a ball in the most simple concept is one plane of movement. But if you reverse the ball, a ball is really a sphere. It's not flat. It has volume. So if I reverse the ball like this and I turn, then I'm reversing the ball in many directions, and you're manipulating your skeleton to create that reversal. So depending on where that ball is going, it becomes that, right? So because we have to set up that ball to create the next movement, or the next movement, we're constantly creating these spheres inside this space. That's where the fluidity comes from, the exchange between upper and lower, one hand and the other. So that exchange becomes part of our body mechanics. So that body intelligence I'm talking about really is spatial awareness and the ability to control the movement within the realm of your body's positions or relative positions. So it doesn't go beyond eyebrow, waist, shoulder, and 45 degrees, because if I'm here and I turn, if I'm turning here, the ball's there. If I turn here, the ball is there. If I turn here, this is rolling it forward, rolling it back, flipping it over, and all of this, if I take it up, that's actually what's going on, right? So all the things that we're doing as we're building these patterns from the Tai Chi Paradigm's warm-ups is creating those type of actions. So when the body becomes very intelligent, it's called Donggeng, understanding strength, then it becomes functional. You know, everything that we do in movement has functionality. It's the only reason why we move, right? You move your legs to walk, you move your legs to get up, and you move your legs to go down. You have to get from point A to point B, to stand, to do things here. You sit to do things there. You squat to do other things. So that's the reason why we can move. And then the dexterity and the skill that you develop with your understanding of what you trying to create becomes a whole nother level of why you would be moving. So on that note, that's it. It's kind of more of a principles and guidelines. Next class, I think we'll work more on postures again on the second half and transitions. So on that note, we'll see you next time. And hopefully everyone got something out of that. Subscribe, tell your neighbors, tell your friends. We need more supporters that getting the notification button, and that will help us. All right, see you next time. You didn't get your full workout.